democracy will lie if there is a transparency which is ensured by accountability, which in turn is the outcome of the world of audit. We are joined by author P. Sej Kumar, whose book Unfolded, The Audit Trail, has come out and has been trending in the recent months because of many revelations. We will come to those aspects later. First, welcome to the show, sir.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Sejji, you write in your book that transparency is the conscience of civilization. So let's begin our discussion with that. Your only quote in the book. What do you mean by this?
See, in a parliamentary democracy in particular, in fact, in Indian democracy, which is quite, if I may use the word, cacophonous, with so many voices, so many opinions, freedom of expression, social media, pressures, vested interests. So with all this background, now my focus was on public financial accountability. The public financial accountability inevitably takes us to the institution of the Supreme Audit Institution, that is Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So that institution plays a very significant role in ensuring this public financial accountability through its responsibilities, duties, and powers conferred on it by the Constitution, number 1, Articles 148 to 151, and the accompanying statute, which is called the Comptroller Auditor General's Duties, Powers, and Conditions of Service Act 1971, as amended from time to time. So, now how has this institution ensured this public financial accountability? Number 1. Number 2, what exactly is auditing? What is this audit trail? How it originated in the old Sumerian, Roman, Greek civilizations? How was the accountability ensured? Then right to the Middle Ages, then the modern times, and how the Supreme Audit Institution evolved across the world. This was the aim of my book. So, in all this journey of public financial accountability, you would agree that transparency becomes the bedrock. So, transparency of what? Transparency of finances, receipts, expenditures, accounting, disclosures, and then some independent institution or body should see that account of the year and give some sort of an independent feedback to the ultimate rulers of the country, that is the people of the country or the parliament. So that is how I envisaged, and I tried to link all these aspects and come out with a book in this Unfolded series.
Sejji, the expanse of your book is quite vast, and we request the audience to stay till the end of the video because we are going to discuss not only the contemporary events but the very evolution of auditing as well as the empire building that went along with this. Sejji, you wrote in the book that auditing or the exercise to ensure transparency began in temples, and it also led to the rise of religions in some aspects and expansion of empires. But it was intrigued by procedural ambiguities in democracies. So in that context, you have mentioned the kind of hardships that the CAG official faced when it was making lots of revelations during the Manmohan Singh government. You even write that the CAG officials were given rooms near a stinking toilet. What kind of hardships do you people face in your work?
See, one thing we must remember that however much we talk from the podiums or pulpits, so to say, audit is considered an intrusive activity as far as the audited entity or executive is concerned. In fact, I have in my bureaucratic career spent almost 5 years as a joint secretary in Government of India. And I have seen the work from the other side also. So how does the executive view audit? And the general tendency is to avoid audit, or rather delay or procrastinate, or perhaps not produce the essential records, not cooperate fully, give them very as little a time as possible to complete their audit, so that the real meaty issues they don't examine, or and we don't get into that sort of an avoidable situation. So better you manage or avoid audit. That has been the normal unfortunate tendency at the operational level. At the higher levels, people say we welcome audit, we welcome transparency, we want to improve things. Yeah, audit is an aid to management. All this we hear, and this is a good, well, thing to note and speak about. So in practice, uh, it's very rare that audit is a welcome activity. Having said that, we should also keep in mind during the times, that 2010 to 2012 in particular, the executive, the government was under tremendous pressure. See, one report after the other, severely castigating the policies, the implementation, the impact, implications, and opaqueness, and some vested interest getting benefit out of government policies, and some humongous quantifications of those. You call it presumptive losses or windfall gains. All these things. That was that period. So, in that charged atmosphere, isn't it natural to expect the already reticent auditee entities to become a little more uncooperative? So, that is the background under which this coal allocation exercise, audit exercise, had been undertaken. And there was definitely some non cooperation, or rather delays, on the part of the government at that point of time. Somehow they overcame with whatever records were produced. And luckily, as I mentioned in my earlier book also, the one crucial file containing the policy developments in the coal allocations, that became the backbone of the CAG's report, and one or two screening committee meetings. So only based on those two aspects that coal report was prepared, and it created quite a big furor, as we are aware.
Sheshji, in politics, we understand that a selective reference or selective reading of any event or episode gives a wrong impression. And we understand that when we spotlight CAG officials being slotted a place near a stinking toilet, it gives an impression that the Manmohan Singh government was totally anti-transparency. But your book gives a whole picture that politicians use the CAG or the audit as per their conveniences.
Absolutely.
So we would like to understand uh, the CAG and the audit functions in the contemporary time in the last 10 years as well. How different has been the Modi government compared to the Manmohan Singh government?
It's a wonderful question, and quite a loaded question. See, I have not been actively in audit after 2015. So it is only the what I have heard from my colleagues or ex-colleagues who have worked during this period, and also what reports or what results of audit have been in the public domain, and what sort of media coverage happened on those reports. So based on that, my assessment would be that, in fact, in my second book, if you recollect, CAG, what ought to be auditing, I have a separate section where I clearly discussed and said clearly also that, the CAG's reports are used selectively, as you rightly said, by whatever party is in power, and tries to bring down or cast down the government which preceded it. And same thing happens when the other party comes to power. So this has been the tradition, keep all along, and it will remain so probably. But coming to your pointed question, that what is the level of cooperation or transparency or improvements? See, no such major reports have come of such magnitude or such impact during those last maybe 10 years. And some reports have come, for example, you and the media, and we are all aware. I'll take the example of Rafale fighter jet acquisition. So that report created a lot of political heat, both in parliament, media, everywhere. And the CAG went into that subject, but very clearly, CAG that time, he did not examine only the Rafale acquisition, though the thrust of the political furor that time was they were concentrating only on Rafale. So CAG brought out a report on acquisitions done by the Air Force or Defense during a particular period of time in which Rafale was also one of the acquisitions. So you see the trend of the approach of CAG slightly subtly different. Here, CAG didn't go into Rafale in particular. So he combined all the acquisitions and tried to make a general comment or a report on acquisition implications, processes, and transparency and what happened, whether it was value for money and all that. He tried to bring out that sort of a report. But even that report was criticized by the opposition. You are aware. See, the whole issue of pricing, the offsets, no, those were not at all examined to the satisfaction of that particular set of people. So anyhow, CAG has submitted a report, and I don't think the Public Accounts Committee has been able to furnish its own recommendations or accepted those recommendations of CAG in that report. So that report still has not seen the light of the day. Coming to other reports, there are, thousands of crores are being spent on what are called the social public welfare schemes, employment schemes, financial assistance schemes, skill development schemes in a large way, and lakhs of crores. But we have rarely seen, if I may call, what is called an all India performance audit of such schemes, where, CAG is used to earlier examine the policies, the assumptions behind the policies, the correctness of the monitoring mechanism, efficiency of the monitoring mechanism, just not the impact on the ground in the states, no, the outcomes. So that aspect of the policy analysis or examination, that has taken a backseat in the last 10 years. Possibly the concentration was more on outcomes, not on policy incongruencies, inconsistencies, or incorrect appreciation of assumptions. And more importantly, what is the role of monitoring in the government of India? Most of the schemes on which these lakhs of crores are spent are government of India schemes. The state governments or agencies, they only implement and report the results. So the role of the central government ministries is perhaps not being subjected to that closer scrutiny compared to what it has been earlier. That is another feeling in many sectors in the CAG's office itself.
Right. To give a perspective to the audience, CSG in his two big book series on CAG has given a lot of anecdotal accounts how Manmohan Singh, as an opposition leader, was so excited about to know the details of an ongoing audit work of the CAG. But when he became the prime minister, things changed. In the remaining part of this video discussion, we will talk about Chanakya, Kautilya, Sumer, temple audit evolution, and even China's monarchies. Sheshji, let's begin from where you begin in the book. Sumerians' temples, 3000 BC. So that is the origin of the audit and why they were compelled to begin auditing the offerings made to the temples.
See, this is simple human tendency that if we are giving the power to the regime who rules us, it may be a monarch, it may be a democracy these days. How does that monarch or the government get the finances? It is from public, from the common man, a citizen. So even in those days, maybe currency was not in vogue, but in kind, it could be grains, it could be goats, it could be animals, it could be anything. So when those were collected, obviously, see, it required the authority which collected and utilized, supposed to be utilizing that for the benefit of the common man, to come back and report. So that sort of accounting requirement was realized even in Sumerian times. It was refined in Greek and Roman and other times, and even Chinese, as I mentioned in my book, even the medieval times. So this continued in its own way, and slight improvements were brought about, and any misuse, any abuse, or defalcation, they were dealt with quite publicly and severely also. So the concept has evolved in a rudimentary form, and slowly it built over till ultimately this Luca Pacioli, he devised the system of double entry system in the 15th, 16th centuries.
No, we will come to the Luca Beccioli. That's a very fascinating account that you have given in the book. Says G, on November 25, flag hoisting is taking place at the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. And Ram Madhav, one of the ideologue of the ruling party and the organization, has said that event should lay also down the beginning of Ram Rajya in the country. So the very foundation of Ram Rajya was transparency, as the accounts of the Lord Ram say. So do you think that the journey that Chanakya, the Kautilya, began during the Mauryan dynasty has kept the pace, or we are somehow derailed from the path?
See, much water has flown, the Yamuna, Ganga, and other rivers from the Kautilya's times. I tried to discuss the developments in the book also. Uh, yes, there have been improvements. There have been gradual improvements. There have been auditing standards, accounting standards, first accounting standards, followed by auditing standards. Even in the public domain, in the public financial accountability, in the private sector also. So I think transparency has only improved, and there are a number of regulating agencies, regulatory agencies, both in the government sector and the private sector, especially in the present context, which are trying their best to take care and improve continuously, drawing from the best practices internationally available, adapting them to Indian peculiar needs and environment. I think it's a positive development and going on fairly okay.
Says G, when you talk about Luca Pacioli, you also write that somehow he lit the firestorm of empire building across the continents, and the Europeans gained from his knowledge and the skills. Can you please share an account what all happened? How did the empire building take advantage of audit works?
See, one thing we need to remember, let us come back to India, the East India Company. So it was, what was it? What was it, even after that, the British government, what was its main focus? It was not public service, delivery, outcomes, public welfare. They wanted control of the economy, finances, and ensure that there is no embezzlement and all amounts are properly credited. It is more of a control mechanism, not of transparency per se or efficiency of utilization or delivery of their expenditure or services. That was only incidental. That picked up much later after Indian independence. So Luca Pacioli is credited with the concept of the double entry bookkeeping, where you have liabilities, dues, and incomes expected, which have impact on the current financial year, the concept of the financial year, depreciation, liabilities, guarantees, all those were in sort of a double entry system. He tried to give the basic premise for that. Later, it was built step by step, and a lot of improvements came in the form of accounting standards and auditing standards. That's how it progressed.
Sheshji, before we move to China and the Islamic empires, let's briefly discuss what happened during the Guptan era, and did the Mughal Empire also improved upon transparency, administration, or audit? Because in Akbar's time, we understand that Todarmal was a very big administrator.
See, yes, Again, the question, the empires, monarchs, their ultimate or immediate aim was, preserving control over their kingdom, people, and other dominions under their control. For that, they needed money, revenues. So each evolved different methods. There could be Jagirdari system, Mansabdari system. I discussed quite a few of these things pertaining to the Mughal period also in the book. Later in the English East India Company time. So the whole idea was again control, more than transparency, disclosure, reporting the actual account of the expenditure and outcomes. That was still very, very rudimentary. See, public was not informed, or these things were not discussed in the way it happens in the present day government. So I would call that as a very slow evolutionary uh, phase, pace rather. And the emphasis was more on, see, documentation, reflection, control, accounting, rather than seeing the delivery outcomes and how the public has benefited. Those aspects came gradually.
Seshji, before we go to China, let's discuss how did the Islamic empires use accounting, auditing, and transparency to build and expand the expanse of their religion as well as their empires.
See, I did not deal with the relationship between expansion of religion and empires in the book. I concentrated basically on the accounting aspects, which the Islamic empires or the Chinese dynasties had attempted to incorporate, follow in their administration. So the religion part I didn't tackle. What I tried to say was, yes, even in the Islamic dynasties, they were very strict about accounting, and they were very they viewed any embezzlement or any non-accounting or any scope of the such embezzlements very seriously. So there were layers, a series of officials, one to prepare the accounts, another to verify the accounts, and other to certify the accounts. So with all these, they may have given different nomenclature in their own language or religion to these bodies or individuals. But yes, the system was there. And again, as I said earlier, the emphasis was on control, not on transparency per se, for the sake of reporting the delivery and outcomes to the ruled people, that is the Janata or the people.
So they were not empowering the people in their dominions;
No,
they were empowering. They were basically empowering their rulers.
absolutely.
Uh, let's go to China, says Ji. We understand that China is a very opaque nation, and you have given a contemporary sense of China also in the book that you have talked about the evolution of audit and transparency from the Ming and the Han dynasty to Xi Jinping. Let's talk about China. What did you find from your research in China?
The Chinese in the ancient times, yes, and the medieval times. I'm using the word British colloquial words for these periods. Yeah, they had their own systems, and they were quite upfront. They were transparent. They were accounting, and then in the modern times, yes, China has a different system of government, as we are all aware, but it has got all institutions, all accounting standards, all auditing standards. They have devised their own auditing standards based on the requirements of transparency and accountability. They have a Chinese National Audit Office also, for your information, which is equivalent to the any other supreme audit institution in in the world. And they also do the audits. They have come out with quite a few reports. And but then the question is transparency. How transparent are they in their functioning? Because the system of government is entirely different, especially after 1950. So whether we can exactly compare apples to apples, we can't say. But then the essence or the basis of public financial accountability is there, and any deviation or any defalcation, embezzlement is met with a very severe punishment there. Maybe it is not discussed openly and available for public consumption, but they are following those systems, and they are doing. They are one of the best administered countries in many ways. They are so much so that the United States sees China as a threat in many respects.
Sheshji, your last word. If regimes trample on transparency, or if the ruling regimes become create blocks in transparency, how do the people empower themselves that they take the lead and enforce and ensure transparency in the governance?
See, my mind goes back to not very far back, Arab Spring. We all know about that. Very
Yes.
recently, we have seen in Sri Lanka, we have seen in Bangladesh, how regimes have been toppled violently when public take to streets. And why do public take to streets? Because of their absolute disillusionment. Maybe forget about transparency, accountability, bordering on corruption perhaps on a large scale, and their cost of living, the ease of living, standard of living, employment, livelihood. So all these are interconnected, and these are linked ultimately to the accounting system and the auditing system in any country. So what I feel is, as long as these systems are working fine, and there is public participation, dissemination, and public is aware through any means, through the parliament, through the parliament accounting committees, through the media, through CAGs or Supreme Audit Institutions, interventions, their reports, publications, public is aware, then the accountability automatically is on a safe footing. Once that accountability is distorted in any way, for various reasons, which is difficult to happen in democratic countries, so it is rare exceptions. Bangladesh may say it's a democratic country, Sri Lanka may say it's a democratic country, but you see what happened there. So governments have been toppled in violently, though. So public accounts, public financial accountability can be neglected or sidelined at a very serious cost, which will come sooner than later in any country.
So, dear audience, I have read the book fully, and the book is not a boring thing. You may think that it's an audit kind of a book. It would be boring. It's a history, and it's written very lucidly, and it is simply a kind of a page turner that we call. And one may keep reading the book all the times until he or she finishes the book. Sheshji, thank you so much for talking to us, and many congratulations for the book.
Thank you so much. Pleasure talking to you.